Hello, adventurers. My name's Tyler.
And I'm Richard.
On today's episode, we're discussing the newest Unearthed Arcana drop, Player's Handbook Playtest 7. Welcome to True Strike.
Howdy, folks. It's time for another Unearthed Arcana drop. Today we're revisiting some classes we've already seen for some new subclass additions and just general changes. Some really interesting changes on this update, and we're going to talk about them. But I guess the cool thing here is you haven't read any of this, have you?
So between life getting in the way and the fact that Rich and I thought this would be kind of fun, I have not read over this UA at all. And Richard is going to be telling me all the cool bits, and I'm going to give my fresh hot takes right out the oven.
Yeah, because I had some hot takes. Like, there was some things that I really liked on this, and there was some things that not so psyched about. And I would really wanted to see your input on it, because I remember we originally talked about, like, when we were going to read over it, when we were going to have all the information, and then we were both all like, well, what if you didn't read any of it? Just so that we could see what your real reaction is to this stuff. Right. So we're getting a real visceral reaction out of you, what you think of this stuff.
Now, full transparency, I do know that there are two subclasses. Just from
spoilers.
I don't even remember what they're from. I think one's a fighter. But yeah, that's it. That's really all I know from it so far.
Yeah, and there are two subclasses. There's actually a bunch of minor tweaks, like with every Unearthed Arcana. So there is a bunch of stuff in here that we're not going to talk about today. So I do encourage you, Tyler, to go back and read the playtest number 7 when you get a chance, as well as you, audience, to go ahead and give it a quick read through. Because we're not going to go through every single thing. We're going to do like we usually do, which is pick out the stuff that we think is cool and we want to talk about, or not so cool and we want to talk about. So... we're not going to touch everything, so I'm going to hit the strong points and the weak points, and if you want to get the full review, you should go read through this entire thing on your own, so you can actually see everything that's changed.
Is this one as dense as some of the last ones have been?
It's pretty dense, yeah.
Cool.
It's pretty big, and there's a lot of significant changes, I would say, to some of the stuff that's happened here. So it definitely is worth a read. All of them are worth a read, though, and you should be reading them and going through and taking the surveys after fact. So
I was gonna say, everything so far, the surveys have definitely been the most important thing. But man, they are dense.
Yeah, and the surveys are the reason why we have a lot of these changes.
Ooh.
Because a lot of the stuff that was in there, they found that people just didn't like or didn't work in playtests.
They fixing things?
So they're trying to fix things,
Oh.
which does mean, unfortunately, rolling back some stuff and just removing some stuff that I was super excited for.
I don't like it already.
Yeah. So let's just jump right in. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about the subclasses, because that's probably the most exciting thing, I thought, in this player's handbook revision, whatever you want to call it. So the first thing is the barbarians, because we touched on the extra classes or subclasses. So barbarian, first thing that happened before that is primal knowledge moves up to level 3 from 2. So I don't think that's a huge deal. Remember what primal knowledge was?
Yeah.
Okay, so primal knowledge, for those of you that don't remember, is that cool new thing that allows barbarians to do stuff with rage out of combat. So giving that extra utility to just a hit stuff class.
I'm just glad this hasn't gone away.
Oh yeah, no. When I first saw that there was a revision to it, I had a moment of panic, because I was like, no, that is so cool. Please don't take it away.
Yeah, as soon as you said primal knowledge, I got worried.
Yeah, so they didn't take it away. They just bumped it up to level 3.
Okay.
So not a huge deal. I don't think so. Reckless attack got a boost. It actually lasts all the way to your next turn now, which is
so
really cool.
Attacks.
Yeah, any kind of opportunity attacks or anything like that are not going to benefit from your reckless attack. So that was a cool little thing that I think is really neat. Brutal criticals went back to normal. So they didn't nobody, I think, liked the changes that happened with it. It didn't test well in the surveys. And overall, I think that they were saying that it was doing less damage in the new form. So basically, brutal criticals went back to normal, being a 1d12, and then at level 9, scaling up with level. So brutal criticals back to the way they were, what everybody used to. But where it gets really interesting is our new subclass. So now we have a new subclass called the Path of the World Tree, which is really interesting because most of the time when you think about barbarians, you think about big punchy guys, you know, or gals, you know, big muscles and not really caring about anything.
You think druids.
You don't think trees and druids, right? But this is going to bridge that gap. So now we're getting druid barbarians, essentially.
Oh, I was kind of joking when I said that.
No, that's basically the best way that I can describe it is a druid barbarian. Now, oh God, I was dreading this is going to come, which is the pronunciation of the world tree. Do you know it?
I mean, off the top of my head?
Yeah.
No, I haven't read the book.
Oh, well, no, the world tree in general lore. So this isn't like a new world tree. This is the world tree, which if any of you don't know the name of it, it starts with a Y. I've heard it pronounced so many different ways. Yggdrasil, maybe? Yggdrasil?
Usually if it's a big word, I just gloss over it.
I don't know. It's complicated, but it's the world tree. So essentially what the new Path of the World Tree is it's a barbarian that has a connection to the world tree. So that is a connection to the world in itself and kind of like the extra planes that go around it.
Okay.
So this is a druidy bard. The first thing that they're getting at level 3 is the Path of the World Tree, which gives you temporary hit points to you and your allies. So basically, it's an ability that you can do that gives you temporary hit points, which is really kind of interesting and cool because it does you and your allies. So it's not really something that we're used to seeing out of our barbarian.
No, that's more of a supportive feature for allies and stuff, which is neat.
Yeah, and it's unique and it's just kind of cool. But things really start to get interesting when you get to the higher levels of this barbarian because you get some really, really cool stuff. At level 6, you get Branches of the World Tree, which is a reaction-based ability. And basically, it's a 20-foot radius from you, right? So You've got 20 feet away from you. You use your reaction and the person that you're hitting has to make a strength saving throw.
Okay.
And if they fail, they are pulled underground by roots.
What?
And brought back to you within 5 feet.
What?
Yes. So it's a snatchback.
That's amazing.
Or just a straight up pull somebody back under.
Get over here.
Yeah, get over here kind of situation. So really, really crazy cool. And that's one thing. I've played a couple barbarians and trying to get into combat or trying to engage people that are engaging my allies and stuff like that and trying to figure out where you're going to be on the battlefield. This solves so much of that. Like before, the only really thing that we had was, just running out, or maybe if you're doing the Path of the Wild magic, hoping for that teleportation roll so you can bamf around, This, I think, is way cooler.
You said 20-foot radius?
20 foot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, 20 foot, and you can just yank somebody and place them anywhere within 5 feet of you.
Interesting.
Yeah, so prime.
So it's not crazy far away from you.
No, I don't think so. To me, it sounds nice. Like, it doesn't sound super overpowered.
No.
And I think it's going to be a really cool ability.
Now, when they get pulled away, does that give, if you have an ally near them, do they get an attack of opportunity? So
it doesn't specifically say, but I don't think so.
Okay.
Because I think that the flavor-wise, it's almost like a teleportation. So you're like dragging them, over. So I don't think they're getting any additional hits from your peeps around you. It's more of just like a repositioning thing.
Okay.
Yeah. But still pretty cool.
It is really neat, yeah.
So that's at level 6. At level 10, we get a Battering Roots passive, right? So what this does is basically it makes roots kind of grow from your weapons. So think like grooting your stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and what happens here, they basically get 10-foot reach and the topple or push weapon mastery.
Oh, my brain is still used to 2014 player handbook. I wasn't even considering weapon mastery.
Yeah, so you're getting weapon masteries on top of it, and now they're 10-foot reach weapons. So that's just straight up across the board. You're now reaching out with root weapons and just bamfing everybody that's within 10 feet of you. So it seems like that might be a little overpowered to me on first
it's
thoughts.
So cool.
And the fact that it's only at level 10, that's what makes me curious. Like,
I don't know. You say only level 10, but 10 to 12 is kind of like your end game for most people.
Yeah, I guess when you look at it like that, yeah, because when that is true. Most people are looking at level 12 max out campaigns, so maybe it's not so bad. I don't know. I think I'd have to see this in practical play, because just randomly, just every weapon that you're having have a passive and having that 10-foot reach
Right.
on your crazy barbarian.
I think the biggest thing there is, as far as balancing, is how many other classes have insane range weapons and stuff and abilities at this level, as this is just giving you 5 extra feet. It's kind of like Marisha's character from Campaign 2 of Critical Role, how Matt gave her the bracers that let her do the lightning damage when she chose to do so.
True.
At the range, because sometimes it sucks to be a melee character and like I can't reach them. Aha! Now I can.
Now you can. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I don't know that one. Like I said, out of everything that I saw in this
That was your
current
flag.
one, that was the only one where I was all like, whew,
Okay.
that one could be something. Like, am I saying that it is 100%? No, it's just out of everything that kind of like popped up, that was the one that kind of stood out to me as
Right.
maybe a little bit much for a barbarian, but we'll see.
Is there more for this subclass?
So there is one more
Okay,
thing.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
there is one more ability at level 14, which is called Travel Along the Tree. So this is a once per long rest, and
Is this a teleportation?
it is a teleportation. So basically, you can touch a huge or a large tree, and then use that to travel to a teleportation circle anywhere in this world or on another plane.
Oh, so not tree to tree.
Not tree
They're
to
like
tree.
combining druid and wizard.
Tree to teleportation circle.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's what I read that a couple times just to make sure that it was specifically like from tree to teleportation circle, and it does specifically say teleportation circle. So
Okay.
it's a huge or a large tree, then specifically to a teleportation circle. So still kind of interesting that a barbarian is getting a high mobility tree teleportation at level 14, which is kind of
Once
neat.
a day.
Yeah, once a day. Or there is a caveat. So it's either once per long rest, or you can expend 5 uses of rage.
Oh.
So if you still have your rage, you can just punch a tree real hard and open up a portal
right,
somewhere. At least that's how I envision it.
No, that's the only way to do it now, yeah.
Yeah, you're just like, get so angry and you punch this huge
Yep.
tree and like a portal opens up and everybody walks through it and goes through. Yeah. So yeah, that is essentially that's it. So pretty overall, not bad. So you have a way to basically pull people in, right, to do more damage.
Mhm.
You have temporary hit points to you and your allies when you activate your rage.
Right.
That's pretty cool. That's an early level
Ah,
thing.
that's really good. That's really, really cool.
Reach and teleportation. This seems like a kind of fun class that I don't know though. It seems like one of those weird things that's like, this is a very specific barbarian. Like, who's gonna play the tree hugger barbarian?
So I'm getting a vibe from this subclass that just screams this is a 2023 subclass versus a lot of the other ones that are like going forward, have had slight tweaks, and they still feel like old subclasses that have just been like touched up on a little bit, where this actually feels like fresh minds have come in and made this from the ground up, because all of these abilities are super interesting, even the ones that have kind of been picked apart and pulled from druid and wizard, because this just sounds really fun. Like, okay, sure, maybe like okay, you mentioned who would be the barbarian playing this. Well, I guess it depends on your party composition. And, if your team doesn't have a way to, later on levels, you're not going to have long distance teleportation.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a druid in your party. You're not going to have, certain things like that. You could still be a tank, a high damage dealer and high damage taker, but still have some of these abilities and fill all those roles. I don't know. It's pretty cool. I mean, look at my beautiful wife's character in the party right now. She's playing a barbarian who is very into nature, and this could potentially perfectly fit that.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I could see her playing this barbarian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it would fit really well, especially with the characters like everything, like the character's attitude, the whole the whole background and everything like that. I think it could work well.
Yeah. And she loses her cool, you know what I mean?
Yeah, she doesn't rage, she loses her cool.
But right now, she's wild magic, for reasons she wants to have magic. But this is kind of both of those, she would give her more abilities outside of your typical barbarian abilities, but it would actually theme directly into the vibe she's going for.
Yeah.
I like it.
You like it?
I do like it.
I think it sounds pretty interesting. It's very different. Like when I knew there was going to be a barbarian subclass, a new barbarian subclass, I would have never pegged this one.
As soon as you said barbarian, this is not what I was expecting.
No. It was completely out of left field. Like I did not expect this one to come at all.
I want to play test it a little bit and really see the abilities in battle. But other than that, it sounds neat. Top of the dome sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it sounds kind of neat. I already have an idea for one that I would like to run.
See, there we go.
Yeah,
that's
I
all
already
it takes.
have a theme for one of them, and I think it would be pretty interesting. So, like I said, overall, I think it's cool. I think it just needs a little play testing, and maybe it would be neat.
Yep.
So that's it for Barbarian as far as what we're going to talk about there. Fighter is the next thing on the docket.
Okay.
So Fighter got some more changes. Basically, we got a couple of small things off the jump. The Action Surge. They reworded this again because if you remember, Action Surge got kind of nerfed a little bit in the last one in the effort to keep you from dipping into Fighter.
Right.
So that you could cast multiple spells with Action Surge. And then they kind of hit Action Surge a little bit too hard for most people's liking, I guess. So they dipped back to the old Action Surge with a smaller errata. So basically, Action Surge is back to the way it was, and it's any action except specifically magic.
Oh,
So
interesting.
basically, they just went back and they're all like, okay, we're going to address the one part that we were really trying to address
Yes.
with this change, the thing that's most important, which is that magic action. Because, like I said, people were okay with that, but not really okay with all the other changes to Action Surge.
Okay.
So
Fair
I
enough.
think that's fine. I think that's fair enough. Yeah, this solves the problem that they were trying to fix, right? Which was the people dipping into the subclass just to be able to cast more stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Next small thing was Second Wind now regains a use on short rests.
Hey.
Yeah. So dipping back into what it seems like they're doing with a lot of classes, making short rests relevant.
Which is interesting because not too long ago in these UAs, they were making short rests irrelevant.
Yeah. It seems like, I don't know if they were just trying to find the balance. Maybe that's it.
I mean, it got to a point where really the only people that needed them was the warlocks. And, you got a warlock in your party. They just want a short rest all the time.
Yeah, they're just going to want a short rest.
And then they were like, oh, what if warlocks didn't, get their spell slots back on short rest? And, I guess here we are now.
Yeah. So, like I said, it seems like they're kind of dipping back in, which is okay. I don't think we take enough short rests in any of the games that I've played in.
I think we usually take like one.
Yeah.
Maybe. One a day.
Not
at most.
At most. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to remember the amount of times that we've used a short rest feature. It just doesn't happen very much. So I think I'm okay with finding new ways to make it work. And also stuff like Second Wind regaining uses makes Second Wind that much better. So
That's true.
Yeah. Level 2 is a new ability called Tactical Mind.
Oh, wait. What is this class?
This is not in the subclasses yet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We're just in fighters. So they're doing some new stuff with fighters here that's really, really cool. So before we even touch the subclass, we get Tactical Mind, which is an all new ability. What this does is kind of along the same lines what they were doing with the rage and being utility outside of just combat.
Okay.
You can now use your Second Wind, and instead of healing, it's a D10 that you can use on an ability check.
Okay.
So it's using your Second Wind charges to basically be better at a utility outside of combat. Because if you're playing a game where you're just, like you said, not really doing much combat in the game, what's your Second Wind for?
Detective stuff, apparently.
Detective stuff. That's what. So yeah, level 2 Tactical Mind, really, really cool. Just gives you a little bit more utility during those sessions where you're not fighting every single week.
Okay.
Or, you have stuff, a little bit of downtime and the fighter's feeling a little bit sad and maybe a little bit useless without anything to punch. Level 5, we also get another new ability called Tactical Shift. So basically what this does is when you use it, it gives you half your movement without provoking attacks of opportunity when using Second Wind.
Fighters are really good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a really good one because you're doing two things right there. So you're using Second Wind, right, to get your
use a bonus
healing,
action,
use your bonus action,
healing in
get
real
some
quick.
healing in there, and then also getting out of dodge.
Right.
Yeah. So you're gimping your movement, so you're going half movement, but you're still getting able to, kind of reposition yourself, which is kind of like leaning into this.
Oh, I misunderstood it.
Thing.
So it uses up half your movement?
So basically what you do is when you use it, you have half of your movement available to you at that point to then move away or reposition yourself.
I thought I was
without provoking any attacks of opportunity.
Okay. I thought it was when you used it, you got a no provoke, you got a disengage with half movement, and then you'd still have your movement also.
Oh no, I think it still just halves your base movement. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's not like it's not giving you extra. It's just allowing you to, like, if you're stuck in combat, you're not where you want to be.
Oh, okay.
And you also are a little bit hurt. It's essentially kind of leaning into that whole, like, tactician thing that they're trying to kind of push with fighters a little bit, with weapon mastery and everything like that. So the master of the engagement, essentially.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty cool, though. I like it. I think it's neat. I think anything that they can do with the fighters to make them more interesting than just whacking on stuff, which you're moving into like the battle master at that point when you're doing stuff.
I'll
like
say every time they make a move like this, it's just encroaching on battle master.
Yeah. And I think that's why they didn't go too hard into these new abilities, because battle master is still a relevant thing.
Yeah,
right, it's still definitely relevant, but they're making just your base fighter stuff a little bit more appealing, because I think that the problem with Battle Master is that a lot of people were feeling that you had to be a Battle Master to be a fighter that wasn't just swinging. At least that's the impression that I get. My
impression is that the only reason people feel this way about fighters is because the name of their class is fighter. I mean, it's not a cool sounding, unique, like, specific to Dungeons & Dragons name. It's, what do? They fight.
They swing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I like these changes. I think it makes me more interested in playing a fighter.
No, it's great. They didn't take away anything.
Yeah,
it's just gotten better. And they've already been a good class.
Okay.
So this is,
well,
pluses are pluses.
It's going to keep getting better because we're not into the subclass yet. So we also get Master of Armaments now at level 9, which basically just replaces Weapon Expert and Weapon Adept.
Okay.
And what it does is it allows you to change out your weapon masteries at will from a long rest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. So again, I kind of mentioned this in a couple podcasts ago when we were talking about everybody getting access to weapon masteries, and it felt like it wasn't a fighter unique thing anymore. This is kind of putting that back in the fighter's field, because now it is kind of more unique to them because they can pick and choose. So at least they're not stuck with the weapon masteries that they pick for things. They can choose whatever they feel is going to be best for them moving forward. Or if you get something and you don't like it, then you can switch it out.
Good for them.
Last new ability before we hit the subclass is level 13 Studied Attacks. And this one is super straightforward. If you miss an attack roll against somebody, then you have advantage on your next attack roll against them.
Really?
Yeah. So the flavor is that now you know why you missed.
And this is every...
And this is at level 13. Yeah.
So there's not so many uses of this
when
a day.
When you miss, you basically just now get to roll with advantage on your next turn.
So at this point, you've got multiple attacks.
Yes, and that, I think, is kind of the coolest thing, is that now you have multiple attacks on your turn, and you're not guaranteed to hit, so to speak.
Sure.
But you're definitely leaning into that whole I am a tactician of the battlefield. When you make a mistake, and you're not going to make it again.
Right. Huh.
Yeah. So some pretty big buffs to just a baseline fighter, I think.
Yeah, this is really neat.
Do you think it's too much?
No, not at all.
No?
Not at all. Well, I haven't seen the subclass yet, but it makes me it makes me concerned about the other classes not receiving as much love, at least so far.
So, spoiler alert, reading through these new abilities and then getting to the new subclass that we're about to touch on right now.
Spoil it.
I shed a tear and poured one out for my monk homies.
Oh, yeah, because we just had a disappointing UA for them.
Because we just had a pretty disappointing UA for monks, and the monk that I was building for the next campaign, Will, who was a drunken fist monk, is not a monk anymore. Because by the time we play him, this handbook will be out and this subclass will be available, and that character is now a fighter.
Well, it sounds great. You've only improved.
Yeah, it's like I said, this subclass is something really, really cool, and probably the best thing that I saw in this handbook, and that is the subclass of Brawler.
Okay.
So the Brawler is described as basically a fighter that uses anything and everything in his environment as a weapon. So essentially, this is your legitimate tavern brawler fighter. So anything is your weapon.
So this is your monk without having to take, a feat.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is kind of what I wanted Will to be. And now it's in a fighter with all the new juicy fighter stuff and none of the sadness that came along with the monk revision that we saw. So unless they do some really crazy cool stuff with monks before this book releases, Will, my other character, he's a brawler fighter now. It's just the way that it is. So the first thing you get is level 3 unarmed expert. So you get 1d6 plus strength for your unarmed strikes, or 1d8 if you aren't holding any weapons or a shield.
Okay.
So right off the jump, level 3, you're doing 1d8 plus strength. That's good.
Yeah.
That's
this
great.
is already
Already
this is
really,
already,
really good.
Like I'm putting one up versus monk, and I'm like,
Yeah. No, it's good. Also at level 3, you get improvised expert. So what this does is it allows you to choose a weapon mastery for one hand and two-handed each on a long rest. So you choose one for each, one for a one hand, one for a two hand.
Okay.
And basically your one-handed, you can choose sap, slow, or vex, and for two-handed, cleave, push, or topple.
All right.
So that allows you to choose that weapon mastery for that type of weapon once per long rest.
So maybe this will be a spoiler, maybe it won't be. But can you apply these weapon masteries to things that are not weapons?
So they have to be. So essentially, here. Yeah, so that's the thing, is that we're getting into essentially using improvised weapons. So this is like the whole point of this class is that I am deadly with a spoon at breakfast.
And is that a one-handed weapon?
So one-handed spoon you in the eyeball. Yeah. So that's what makes this so exciting, is that this is truly your. I don't have to have any real equipment on me because I am the equipment.
The world is my equipment.
The world is my equipment. So yeah, when you use an improvised weapon, so that's anything, you can apply one of these masteries to that attack roll.
Okay.
So whatever your improvised weapon is, you apply that mastery to it. So then it's going to be up to your DM to decide whether or not that improvised weapon is a one-handed or
this
it's
really is
two-handed
built
based
into
on what it is.
the rules for it. Okay. I wasn't sure if that was just your interpretation.
So then at level 7, you get grappling expert, which is really cool. So you use your bonus unarmed strike to grapple or shove a target. So you can grapple or shove. If you do decide to grapple, you deal 1d6 bludgeoning at the beginning of your turn to the grappled target.
Oh.
So you're just giving them noogies every turn.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like this.
Yep, 1d6. So if you choose to grapple rather than shove them away, you're just doing damage on your next turn round. It ain't great. It's 1d6, but it's really cool for a grapple ability.
It's better than you had without it.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing you get is level 10, Dirty Fighting. Gives you advantage on attack rolls made with your improvised weapons and unarmed strikes against creatures that are grappled by you. So straight up, advantage on any attack with that spoon into the eyeball or anybody that you're holding onto. So this is really leaning into that still. Anything is a weapon. I'm going to grab you and I'm just going to keep punching you in the face until you pass out. So that's dirty fighting. Level 15, Improvised Specialist lets you add proficiency bonus to improvised weapons and also makes them 1d12. And also, whenever you attack with an improvised weapon, you can use 2 mastery properties from Improvised Expert instead of 1.
Oh.
So again, you just get better and better at your improvised weapons as you go up, and you even apply more masteries to it. So this is really leaning into the whole, I'm not going to find that sword and use it through the entire campaign. I'm just going to use whatever I have nearby me, which sounds super fun. I'm loving this class, if you haven't noticed.
The fighter, it feels right now like the 2024 player handbook is just their excuse to buff up the fighter.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I've seen more likable improvements with this one class than everything else so far.
Oh, I love it.
This is so fun.
Yeah. The last thing that it gets is level 18, which is Unarmed Specialist.
Okay.
So that makes unarmed strikes.
You mean that's not the monk?
Yeah, not the monk. Yeah. So it makes them 1d8 if you're holding, another weapon or a shield. So this basically makes your unarmed strikes the same as your unarmed strikes when you weren't holding weapon or shield. And then if you still aren't holding weapon or shield, it drops them or jumps them up to 1d10. So now your unarmed strikes, which you're probably not going to be holding another weapon or a shield if you're doing unarmed, or maybe you are if you're still using a spoon. So you've got spoon in one hand and you're punching with the other hand, making them 1d10. So just making your unarmed strikes that much better.
At least they let the monk keep the 1d12 to themselves.
Yes, the monk did get to 1d12. But all in all, this subclass, for me, super exciting.
Everything you've said about Will, this just fits so perfectly.
Yeah, that's when I read this, I was all like, oh no, he's not a monk. He's not a monk anymore.
This is really interesting because you were going to play Will for the campaign we're currently doing.
Yeah.
And chose not to. If we got to this part and you had read this, we would have had to switch Will.
I would have been so sad.
We would have had to switch him mid-game.
I would have been so sad
fighter.
to have already been playing that specific character and then have this UA come out in the middle of playing him. That would have legitimately upset me.
I mean, I wouldn't have I would not have been the DM to be like, no, you're already a monk. You're staying a monk.
Yeah, but this is playtest material too.
Hey,
so
guess what? I would have let you do it. I would have let you
playtest material into a middle of a Strahd campaign. That's a little something right there.
Nope, just do it. I mean, in the world that we're not in, alternate universe
Strahd.
This is what we would have done. I would have let you if you wanted to.
So yeah, I don't know what you think about fighters as a whole. What do you think?
Well, I've always actually liked fighters.
Mm-hmm.
I just like them more now.
Yeah.
And that subclass is, oh man, like you said, it pained you to read this because of monks and the state they're in. And I feel exactly the same way. Yeah. This pulled a lot of cool bits that I want from a monk and just put them into fighter. And fighter was already good, but they've also made fighter better. And they have this.
Yeah. And like I said, nothing in here is innately monk stuff except for the unarmed strikes, right?
But it's a lot of the flavor that I expect from a cool monk stuff.
And I guess that's maybe what I think too. Is it's not like this isn't replacing the monk because you're not using key or anything like that. And really the only thing is the unarmed strikes. But I guess in my mind, it's what I expected my monk to be.
It's the theatrics.
It's the theatrics that I expected from my monk, And maybe that's why it hurt so bad when I read it. And I was all like, oh, this just changes everything for me.
It's a mix of that and the fact that the monk is not in a good place.
Yeah.
Because for your character now, this is the best bet. This is the best way to achieve your goal. And monk doesn't really have anything that can keep up.
Yeah, and we actually talked about this previously as well, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm not playing Will in Strahd. So a little bit behind the scenes there, I had made this character well in advance of Strahd. Like, we started making our Strahd characters a long time ago, at least some of us did. And Will I made way before this campaign actually began.
I have a printed mini that he's made of Will sitting over there in the corner of the room that he made a very long time ago.
Yeah.
Just sitting here ready to go.
Yeah, Will was made a very long time ago. And then the more that I looked at the current state of monks in what are we on 2014, right?
Mm-hmm.
Player's Handbook.
Right.
The less appealing it became to be as a class, because I was like, I really want to play this character, but this is the first time I've ever looked at a class and been like, it makes me not want to play this character.
Well, it was the subclass too, right? Like you had to get so far into levels before you had the abilities you wanted.
Exactly. And the subclasses, they took so long to get started. Drunken Fist was the one that I specifically wanted to do, and it is a fun subclass, and I think I would have a lot of fun playing it if I was already playing a higher level character. But knowing that this was going to be a long-term campaign, it was going to take me a long time to get that momentum going, it was not something that I was interested in playing. This fighter, I would throw on a table right now in a campaign and play it.
Oh, yeah.
Like 100%. Like, it is table ready with this setup. Like, I would play this in Strahd in a heartbeat.
Now I have a question. Is Will still drunk?
So, yeah, he probably is.
Okay.
Yeah. So the drunken part doesn't really change. In fact, I think it leans a little bit more into it, because this is Will, who spends most of his time in bars, drunk, getting in bar fights. Tavern brawler.
Yeah.
It just works.
True.
It just fits. Yeah.
Okay.
So like, this is a class that like I would play today. And I've looked at a lot of these new subclasses and everything like that, and a lot of the changes in the Player's Handbook so far. This is my favorite. This is the one that I would play tomorrow, because out of everything that we've seen, like all the new subclasses that we have seen, the limited ones, and all the changes we've seen to other classes, this is the one that I'm ready to play right now.
I mean, everything the two subclasses we've discussed today, like I want both of these in games because they sound, maybe it's just because they're new, because they sound exciting and fresh, and I'm like,
That's true.
well, it is new and exciting and fresh to me because I just heard about them moments ago. But I like both of them. It's not like you mentioned either of them and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to see it.
Yeah. We'll see it soon.
I hope so.
Because I want to play this so hard.
You're not worried either of these are going to be taken away from us?
I am terrified they're going to take away my Tavern Brawler now. I keep calling it Tavern Brawler. It's just Sprawler, but mine's going to be a Tavern Brawler.
You know what it is.
Yeah, it's going to be a Tavern Brawler. I hope they don't take it away.
Get in the playtest.
It doesn't seem like it's too overpowered. I can see how they might check a couple of things in there. Maybe it is a little bit much to apply weapon masteries to improvised weapons so willy-nilly at higher levels.
Fine.
Especially when your improvised weapon could literally be the spoon or like the spare rib that you're gnawing on.
Yeah, but that's just it's sure, but it's
you
fun.
You killed the goblin with what? A meat pie.
Yeah, but
what does that mean? I said what I said, boy.
Look,
I killed him with a meat pie.
Look, if a sack of potatoes is a two-handed weapon, I understand that it's going to apply topple. Like, I get it.
That's amazing.
I understand fully. Especially
I just got goosebumps from that when you said that.
And you're limited based on what's in the scenario. Creatively limited, mind you.
But I'm going to push you as a DM with this character. Every room that we walk in, I'm going to have you describing every single item in the room. Is that candelabra attached to the wall?
Right.
How well?
Yeah, right. Well, you make an athletics check to see if you can take it off the wall.
Yeah. There's a what on the floor in the corner? I need you to be very specific what's on the floor over there.
Oh my goodness.
How hard is it to take the bone out of the dog's mouth?
There's going to be a bearskin rug used as a weapon, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah. No, it's exciting. So yeah, those are our two new subclasses. So overall, pretty decent, I think. I think they're
we're off
both
to a good start.
Very exciting, and I'm hyped to use them. Again, there were some more changes to barbarians and fighters, little stuff here and there, but that was like the big stuff. So we hit the big ticket items for those. But you still should go back and take a look at them. The next thing that we're going to talk about here is they have changed the spell lists once again. So they were doing the basic spell list that you were going to choose from, the arcane, divine, and primal lists, right? And everybody was going into it.
Have they gotten rid of these entirely?
So they completely walked that back.
Really?
It is gone.
Oh.
Yeah.
So back to individual
spell lists for
really?
everybody. Yeah.
I hate this.
So this
heck?
This is a huge change, and it's one that I'm not sure how I feel about.
My hot take is that I hate this.
Yeah. So The reasoning, I guess, for all of this is that it was becoming too much the same across the board. So individualized spell lists mean individualized spell lists, right? So everybody has access to certain things. Now, if you start to put things on shared lists, you have to either share them, right? Or you have to make them class specific stuff. So features, so like paladins find steed and smites, where we accidentally had, this stuff where clerics were better paladins than paladins were. So they had to fix that.
Right.
So
But they did.
Well, they fixed it, yes. But again, it was kind of like taking away from true spellcasters, right? Because now what is a wizard now with those 3 shared spell lists, right? I think it was kind of watering down full casters. And I think that's why they did this. Do I like it? I think I'm okay with it.
I just don't. We're on our 7th UA, and the book is supposedly launching next year because they have to hit the date for the 50th anniversary or whatever.
Yeah.
They've got to hit this date. They can't test any longer. And they're just like giving up now. Like, I don't understand.
This one, it seems like a really big walk back. This is one of the biggest changes that they've made, and then immediately reverted.
This was one of the big changes that supposedly was going to make it easier for new players and even veteran players to know what spells they had, because you would come in and say, "Oh, what's my spell list? Oh, go to the divine spell list. You know those. Piece of cake, sweet, thanks. I get it. I can follow that. Not, oh, you have these specific spells. Look up those spells, etc., whatever." At these levels, you unlock these spells. It was those big swings that I was excited for a 2024 revision, because they were big changes.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's still cross-compatible with the old version. So if you didn't want to play the new version of a character, you could still play the old version of a character with the old spell list. But if they're just going to walk everything back at the last minute because they're running out of time to test everything, I hate this. And what's the point of a new book?
Yeah.
At this point, some new subclasses is just the equivalent of a Tasha's Cauldron. Like, just give us a new supplemental book.
True. Yeah, I think so. But I wonder, devil's advocate, how much of it is them walking it back because they just don't want to play test it more, or how much is them walking it back because it was play testing poorly?
It's just, at no point during the last, because they always put out survey results. They always do the videos and stuff like that after these UAs. And never have they been like, everyone hates these spell lists until now.
That's true. Yeah. They haven't outright said that like the spell list thing isn't working out, which is why when I read this, it was a huge surprise, because that, like you said, was a big swing.
Yeah.
Like that was a huge change. So I did not expect them to walk that back.
No, I was sure that was here to stay. I mean, it stayed around for this long. It wasn't one of these, hey, we changed it for this one, let us know. In a couple UAs, we'll try a different version of it if you didn't like it. This has been here the whole time. And I thought this was just how it was going to be.
Yeah, it's going to change. I think the biggest thing about this is it's going to change all the previous UAs, because all of those now have to be errated to a point, because now we're back to individualized spell lists. So things like your warlocks and your bards and even your paladins, they were getting things that were made into features to keep other things from accessing those abilities and those spells.
Right.
So now you have to wonder, are they going to walk all those back to individual spell lists, or are they going to keep them as features? Because there's almost no reason to keep them as features. But then where we're getting is what you said, which is getting back to, is this player's handbook another Tasha's Cauldron?
Yeah.
Is it just a supplement and not really a complete re-envisioning of everything?
That's the funky part to me. If we're not getting enough big changes, what is the point other than to sell another batch of, players' handbooks and dungeon masters guides and monsters manuals and the big collections that I'm going to end up buying when they come out? And
you don't have to buy it.
I have to. It comes with the screen. I have to buy it for the screen. But is that what it is? Like, they just, all these players and they own this stuff already. Let's sell it to them again. How do we do that? some changes. And I understand like the Dungeon Master's Guide is supposed to be easier to read through and explain things better and be organized better and stuff like that. But that's we haven't play tested that at all.
Yeah.
How much of that is going to change from what they're telling us now versus to what it is now? I don't know. I'm losing faith rapidly.
I still feel like a new player's handbook is definitely necessary.
Necessary.
I think so, because of the fact that we're dealing with an ancient tomb here. This is something that is old and at the very least needs a text update. So like even if this was just, lipstick on a pig, so to speak,
Sure.
it would be good to have, just because of the fact that they can actually fix things that they have to have an errata for and make things a little bit finer tuned. So maybe not wild swings, but still an update that I feel is probably pretty necessary.
I hope that's how it's marketed then when it comes time to actually sell it.
Yeah. Because I mean, the closer that we get, the less impactful
Yeah.
the book feels when big things like this get walked back.
Right.
Yeah.
The backwards compatibility nature of it seems less warranted to explain when it's basically the same book.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, this one, I see your disappointment in it because it is a huge thing to walk back. I am less surprised and less disappointed by it, I think. Like I think it's okay. I'm on the other side of the table for this one. But literally and figuratively.
Is it okay because it's what you're just used to how it is, or are you okay because you see their side of it?
I think it's okay because I personally didn't really... I wasn't completely sold and on board with shared spell lists, because in my eyes, it did kind of water everybody down, because it seems just kind of weird that like, oh yeah, everybody is going to have these shared spell lists, and then, you'll choose which one that you want to hit. Like that every spell has to have a strict class to it, the arcane, the divine, the primal. I like the individuality of, I am a druid, I get access to druid spells.
Sure.
Because they are druid spells. I don't care if you're a bard that is, in the forestry division. You're not a druid.
Well, speaking of that then, so what about, if you're a bard and you get access, that was one of the things I liked, where, you're
multi-class
this bard and you can dip into this spell list at this level, and that was cool. The simplicity of it, and the new players, I guess, is the big thing for me, where it'd be nice to just be able to point to a list where now it's not any more complicated than it has been this whole time.
You're still pointing to a list, but you're pointing to a class-specific list, which to me, like I said, I think I err on the side of, I like individual things. Like I want it to be unique to that class. I want it to be unique to them. And I feel like we stepped away from that with the 3 spell lists.
Fine.
And it caused problems.
You caused problems.
It caused problems that had to be fixed. Look at what almost happened to paladins. They almost got erased.
Yeah, but then they came back even stronger.
Yeah,
like always.
Yeah. They're still going to be good. I don't. Yeah, like I said, I wasn't really sold on the 3 spell lists before, so not a huge blow to me to have them disappear, because I like going back to the individuality of things.
Fine. We'll see what actually comes up in the book.
It
might be neither of these.
The next playtest, all the surveys are going to blow up, and they're going to go back to the 3 spell lists.
We've decided to put all spell lists in one spell list, so everyone can have all spells.
Yeah, everybody gets all.
Everyone gets all spells.
Yeah. So speaking of spells, there are a couple of spells that had some pretty significant changes. Don't know if you'll like all these changes. I know one of them you'll like. Okay. One of them is interesting, and one of them I don't think I like.
Oh, interesting. So we've got the whole gambit here.
Runs the gamut. So the first one, which I think everybody will like, hard to complain about, is Jump.
Jump.
Got a new text, basically.
Okay.
Jump now is really good. You cast it, you sacrifice 10 feet of your movement to gain 30 feet of jump.
Oh.
Yeah. So instead of the multiplier hitting the amount of movement that you have,
Because it was triple, right?
yes, but it was triple your current movement set, right? So if you're a lot of people, what it ended up with was like, okay, I'm going to cast jump and I'm going to do this. And the DMs are like, all right, you can jump straight up in the air if you want that high. Yeah, you sure can do that. But if you want to go over there and jump, you're going to use your movement to get to that point. Now your multiplier kicks in and your jump speed is lower. So jump kind of became useless essentially. So now jump is just a straight up, you sacrifice 10 feet of your movement and now you gain 30 feet. So if I have, 25 feet, that gives me a 15-foot running start and then a 30-foot jump, which is pretty cool.
Are you allowed, does this allow you to do that extra movement in your same turn, or do you conclude the jump on your next turn?
What do you mean?
If it's going over your total movement allowed for the turn.
Oh, so I think that's going to be like you can't do it, right? So if you don't have the 10 feet to transfer into a jump, right? It's almost like, I would assume it's like a payment, right?
Well, so you've got all right, so you're taking, all right, let's see if 30 movement.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking 10 away, so you're left with 20. Right?
Yes, you're left to 20.
And then the jump lets you jump 30.
30 feet.
So now you've got 50 feet of movement.
Technically, yes.
Can you do all that in one turn? Or do you have to conclude that jump, the arc of the jump on your next turn? Like if I run forward 20 feet and jump 10 feet forward, do I finish the 20 on my next turn?
No, you would just jump your 10 feet forward. If you're jumping 10 feet or if you're trying to jump 30 feet, it's all going to happen on your turn.
This is where it gets weird.
I don't follow.
Because if your movement
We have a
speed is-
disjunction here.
Because your movement speed is only this far on your turn.
Yeah, you're only moving 20
Right.
feet now.
Right.
And then you're jumping
Mm-hmm.
30 extra feet or up to 30 feet, essentially.
So with the boots of striding and springing, a lot of people would argue, like, even though that like triples your jump distance, stuff like that, and with different abilities, you're like, all right, I can jump like 50 feet. And they're like, well, you can only move 30 feet on your turn because that's your move 35 feet. That's your movement speed. You can't move farther than that on
Oh, no.
your turn.
The way that I interpret it and the way that it's written is you're able to move that. You're able to
So
jump
you
that
do
full
that,
30 feet.
You do that full 50
Yes,
feet of
you
movement
can
in this
jump
turn.
that. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah. So you'll move your 20 and you can jump full 30 feet.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. So it's not like you're getting capped at. I see what you're saying now. You're not getting capped at 10 feet. Yeah, you're not pausing in midair and be all like,
Hey.
the next turn I'm going 20 more feet.
Hey, it's all within 6 seconds.
Yeah. No,
Time's
no,
weird
you're-
in D&D
you're,
combat.
You're jumping that full 30. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which, like I said, is a huge improvement, I think, to jump in general.
It's less math. It speeds it up.
Yes. And
You don't have to pull up the jump calculator.
Yeah, there exactly, which we've had to use a couple of times before.
Yeah, it's very helpful.
And yeah, and just it was weird before because I remember you had to jump vertically once.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was the time I threw Carl up,
Yeah.
and then I had to jump up after.
To jump up after. Yeah. So I think it's just a better way to use jump and it makes it actually something that works. I
Okay.
like it. The next one is wild magic.
Ooh.
Oh,
When you
jump.
when you cast it, is it only good for that one jump,
Yes. I
or does
believe
it
so.
last for like a minute or something?
No, I think it's good for that one jump.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, wild magic is the next one. So wild magic is interesting. This is something which I guess a lot of people talk about wild magic and you don't surge enough.
Wait, so this isn't a change to a spell. This is a surge.
This is
to
a change to
that
wild magic
subclass?
in general. Yes.
Okay.
So
Does
basically,
this affect the barbarian?
what it is you know what? Actually, I don't think it does. I think it's just a wild mage because it's specific to the wild magic surge that happens.
Okay.
And essentially what has happened now is you can just choose to surge. So
Okay.
once per turn.
So this is like the crystal that Kelly's character had.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Where you could just choose it.
Okay.
Yeah. So once per turn now, your wild magic in your group can choose to be unpredictable without influence of the DM or without a bad roll. So you can just lean into the wild magic and just choose to surge one time per turn. So you can't go crazy and do it multiple times. But
Are you still
can
able to do your
surge.
action first?
Yes.
So you still get your spell off
Yep.
as intended.
And then you
And
can
then
choose
also
to surge.
surge.
Yes. And you
Okay.
choose to surge. So it's just a way to to allow yourself to surge. And this is where we start to get into the, is this good or is this not? Because jump is definitely good.
So
A plus plus, keep on keeping on. Now we get to the third or the second one, the gray area. Is this good? Is this bad?
my thoughts on this is definitely my hot take. My thoughts on wild mages, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are the people who play wild mages are the people that want to surge constantly.
Yep.
Rational players don't want to be around that player.
Yes. 100%.
Because no one on your team wants you to do this every turn.
Nobody wants to be a potted plant.
Right. Well, that happens to that player specifically, but like no one wants to be, the joke is like, oh, get fireballed and level 1 and everybody
TBK.
dies.
Yeah.
Right. On very first turn of very first combat, which happens.
And will happen more now.
Yes. And some of the worst ones to me are, oh, they surge and now the entire party within 30 feet, which just happens to be everybody, takes, double damage to piercing weapons.
So I knew you were going to go with that because it's happened to us.
Right.
It wasn't piercing, it was bludgeoning damage, which we got hit with all that extra damage, which made a fight so much worse than it was supposed to be and caused so much death and destruction. And it wasn't even just a single fireball that hits everybody. It was something innocuous, as in like taking extra damage. And it was enough at our low enough level that hurt. That hurt real bad.
So
and like you said, the people that are choosing this class are the wild cards of the group.
Yes.
They're the people that do want to surge, and they were held back before.
Right.
They were held at bay.
They were kept in check.
They were
slightly.
kept in check. And now it's all like, oh, you want, go ahead. Yeah, you can surge. Oh, you want to surge again? You just did it last turn. Are you sure you want to do it? Yeah, okay.
As much as you want. Everyone else at the table's gonna look at you funny.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. We need a game, a one shot, where it's just a full table of wild mages.
Of wild mages.
And just
it's not gonna last very
No,
long.
that's
It only
the
needs to
point.
be a one shot. Yeah. So this one,
oh my gosh.
I don't know. I feel like there's no way it can stick around.
I get the player agency and everything like that. What I have the list that I found on the internet via Reddit or just Googling or something. Honestly, I don't remember at this point. I apologize to the author of it. But it was a wild magic chart with 300 options in different severities versus the 100.
Yeah.
That is really only 50, for every two numbers being one option for the regular wild magic table. If you're going to allow your players to search every turn, maybe you should add a few more other than 50 possibilities, because you are going to be getting these fireballs and other effects more often than you expect.
Yeah. I guess my question there is that list a little bit more tame on the lower end then?
The 1 through 300?
Yeah.
So it has 3 different brackets. It's 1 to 100 3 times based on where you land on other rolls. It's multiple rolls in a row to see what severity you're going to be at. And if you're on the lower end, the easy peasy severity, they're all chill. And you got the medium, which is like, ooh, this can kind of go either way. It's not really super beneficial, but it's also not terrible. And then you've got the, oh, geez, no matter which one of these you get, it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
And then you've got 100 in that whole scale for each one.
Yeah.
So it keeps it a little more interesting.
I definitely think that would be better, because I think that right now in this current setup is just going to lend itself to bad stuff happening. A much higher rate of bad things happening.
And it's every turn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It seems excessive. I don't think they're going to keep it, because this is way too chaotic. This is way too wild.
You say that, but all this all goes down to the playtest, that if the wild mages are in the survey.
Yeah. All the wild mages, don't bother with this survey. Because I know what you guys are going to do.
If there's ever a survey to skip.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, there've been a few times where we've had a surge and I've been like, man, that was super beneficial. Cool, let's do that again. No,
Yeah.
Every time it's been like either well, that just happened.
Yeah.
Or, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, for
and
sure.
to have that happen more, slightly terrifying.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
So yeah,
don't
like I
like
said,
this.
jump, great.
Sure,
Wild
yeah.
magic, we're getting a little bit weird.
Jump's fine. Jump's fine. It's simple.
I don't know that I like it. And then we have the final big change, and I think this is probably going to be the one that's talked about most, and that is counterspell has been changed.
What did you change to counterspell, Richard?
Yeah. So counterspell now requires the target to make a Constitution saving throw. Yeah.
Why?
That's just the way that it is now.
Okay.
So it's, a level 3 spell, counterspell. The target makes a con save
So I hit you with it, and you have to maintain your composure.
to cast a spell.
Okay. I'm putting pieces together.
If you make the save, obviously the counterspell doesn't work and the spell goes off.
Right.
If you fail the save, you lose material components. So anything that you're using to cast the spell
Okay.
is expended. The spell slot is not.
Oh. So what if you're a focus caster? Just nothing?
Just nothing. You still have your spell slot.
Most casters are focus casters.
Exactly. And then the next turn, just do it again.
And the person that counterspelled, they blew their spell.
They blew their spell slot.
No matter what, whether you save or
Yes,
not.
Whether you save or not. They blow
that's it?
theirs. Now, it is a level 3 spell slot, so we're not talking about, having to burn a higher level spell slot, right? So you're expending yours, but they're not expending theirs. So worst case scenario for you is you fail it, right? And then you get to do it again the next turn. Now, you said focus caster versus non-focus caster. So if you're not a focus caster, you are losing your materials. So if this spell, this big spell, whatever it is, it has any materials involved into it, you're definitely losing those. So maybe you have specific materials you need. You're not going to have them for another cast.
Yeah.
But if you don't, you're still got that spell slot available, which means you can just do it again. Now, you can still counterspell a counterspell. And because it's, a level 3 spell slot, you can say, you're the big bad, you're going to teleport. And I'll be like, no, you can't. So I now stop you from teleporting. So essentially what I've done now is bought my group a turn
Yeah.
to try and Nova you down,
Right.
essentially. Or another way to incapacitate you to your next round where you can, again, try and teleport. Now, if I still have a spell slot open, we'll do the dance all over again. I'll counterspell you. You'll check, see if you fail. If you fail, again, we have another turn to go because you still have that spell slot open.
Yeah.
You still got it sitting there. And if you're a focus caster, you ain't got to worry. You got nothing but time at this point. You just got to stay alive. That is the new meta game of counterspell. What do you think of that?
I don't know. I don't like new things sometimes, especially at first take. It definitely sounds less exciting to me.
Mm-hmm.
There's something cool about is the spell they're casting at level 3? Well, counterspell's level 3. I counterspell your spell. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Oh, it's a higher level. Well, you got to roll. You gotta.
You have to do a check first.
Yes, you got to do a check, and you gotta, depending on the level that their spell was or your counterspell, as long as your counterspell is at least the same level as their spell, it counters it automatically. But if it's not, then you got to make a check, and if you roll high enough, then you counterspell them. That's exciting, especially if it's a big bad and you take away their one really big spell slot.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine a moment where the bad guy is using a 9th level spell and they're casting wish and they're about to change something in the world, and you lay down your last level 3 spell slot and you roll for it and you hit that number and you do it and you've effectively saved the world. Now you guys just have to burn this guy down and you've saved the world.
Yeah.
Now he just does it again next turn.
It's like, oh, you got me that time.
And you're out of spells.
But you just wait till the next round.
Yeah. Now you've got 6 seconds to take them apart.
To take them apart.
Huh. And then con save. Lots of monsters and stuff in 5e have pretty decent con saves.
Yes, but your con save, I mean, it's going to go up as you level, so it scales properly, right? So you do have that at the very least.
Well,
Where
so
I was curious to see what your opinion of this was going to be coming from was from the DM's perspective, right? Because you're thinking about it as in the big bad right now, right? So now flip the script a little bit. So the big baddie now counterspelling the player.
Mm-hmm.
Feels better.
Does it?
Well, I don't waste spell slots now. So as a player, right, I have a limited amount of spell slots. We're in the fight with the big bad. He counterspells me on my last available spell slot.
Yeah.
Feels bad.
Right.
Feels real bad.
But at that point, it's supposed to.
It feels so bad. But now my spell slot doesn't go away, and maybe next round I'm not out of the fight. I still got a little bit of something going. So it feels better from the player end. Is it better?
I don't know.
Was it necessary? How about that?
It just feels like a less fun version of the spell that they tried to go easy on players and dungeon masters alike by making it less intense, I guess, taking away your spell. But like that was kind of the cool part of it, and for both ways. And especially because I feel like depending on the party composition, players are the ones more likely to be popping off counterspells.
True.
Because you've got more players than you do, unless you're fighting a group of wizards.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of campaigns I've listened to in the amount of endings that have really hinged on whether there's a successful counterspell or not.
I mean, there's obviously the big one, Critical Role.
Well, they've had a couple of them,
and they've had a couple of them like that, but they're the one that I think immediately comes to mind for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Without spoiling it, we don't want to go into it
Right.
because there are people that haven't seen that, and it's big moments,
huge
moments, but Counterspell was massive. There would have had the same impact like
No.
this.
No,
Yeah,
I mean on one of them specifically, like.
Yep.
Whew.
It would be a very different game.
Yeah.
Very different game.
Over this one change.
Over one change, which seems like a small change on the surface, but it's pretty huge, and which is why I think this one's going to be talked about the most.
Yeah.
I think that this one is going to be one of the more hotly debated things in this UA, because this is a huge change to a spell. And I think the last time we had something this controversial was Stunning Strike.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one is very specific because counterspell, not everybody's going to be doing that. Not everybody's going to be swinging counterspells all over the place. And it's not something you see a lot of big bads using either. But it's a pretty significant change.
I really liked the idea before of having a higher number to hit in your check against it because it was a higher leveled spell. Versus now you're targeting the spellcaster directly.
Yes.
And targeting their constitution. So you counterspell me, I have to make a save. Doesn't feel as cool as you counterspell me. I say it's a higher level than your third level slot or whatever you cast, then you got to make you got to get at least a 15 on this roll, and you're like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
That just feels more intense of a moment where you're like, all right, here we go. Instead of me behind the screen, like, all right, I saved.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, well.
And then next turn, you're going to do it again.
Yeah.
You're just going to, you have that spell slot available to you. So yeah, I don't like it. I do not like this.
I don't think I hate it.
I hate it.
But I don't agree with it.
I hate it. I think that this was a knee-jerk reaction to something that they felt was overcomplicated.
It wasn't.
And
it really
kind of
wasn't.
Muddy. I think that they felt Counterspell was overcomplicated and muddy because you're having to make a guess and then you're having to make a roll, right? And I think that they felt like players didn't like that. I like that. I think it's, like you said, more intense. I think it lends itself better to the entire idea of what Counterspell actually is.
Yeah.
This does not feel like counterspell anymore.
No, it feels like you're gut punching the opponent and hoping
Yes.
they drop their spell.
It's like a distraction,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
You're not really counterspelling something.
This could be a bard specific ability and call it something else.
Yeah, and it could be something completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like counterspell anymore. It feels like something completely different, and I don't like it. I think that counterspell was fine the way that
Yes.
it was before. I think
Yeah.
it was great the way that it was before. I love the way it worked. I love the mechanics of it, and I liked the situations that it put everybody in, players and DMs alike. I like it both ways. I see how this probably feels better as a player when you get counterspelled now. I don't think it was necessary. I'd rather take that hit, just take the smack on the face, and then just
Dish it back out.
Keep on trucking.
Yeah.
Get angry about it, and do something about it.
Yeah.
This one, like I said, was my third, and I not a fan of it. Not a fan of it at all. And I don't know how many people are going to be a fan of it. I'm really, really curious to see what the survey says about this specific spell.
Yeah.
Because I think we're going to have two very, very distinct camps on this one. I want to know Garrett's opinion on this spell. I should have asked him before this so that I would have it here live. But yeah, I want to know what his opinion on this, because I'm genuinely curious, because I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's going to say about this one. So we're going to talk about it in another episode. We'll, on the next podcast that we talk about D&D related things, we'll give you a little hint into Garrett's insight on this. Because I'm very curious to see, because he's a seasoned DM that plays a lot of games continuously going on, and a lot of higher end games as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he probably sees counterspell more often than we do, and have seen it a lot more. Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah. I wouldn't be mad if it stayed this way, but I definitely don't enjoy it as much. I'd be disappointed.
I would be mad if it stayed this way. I don't like it. I'm gonna write about it in the survey.
You should.
Yeah, I'm gonna write about it in the survey, because this is not something that I hope sticks around. I hope that it gets changed back to the way that it was, because I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I think just if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
True that.
And it wasn't broke.
Well, anything else for this UA you want to hit?
So there's a lot more, but it's nothing that we're going to go into tonight.
Okay.
So yeah, those were all of the big points for the UA. Overall, I felt like it was a pretty strong UA. I like a lot of the stuff that happened in here.
Is it strong because of the barbarian and fighter?
It's very strong because of those two subclasses, specifically the fighter subclass for me. I liked it. Like I said, there was a couple things in here that I didn't like, and stuff that I did like. Again, we're in different camps on the spell list thing. I'm okay with that walk back, and I don't know if they're going to stick around with it, or if they're going to, give us a little bit of whiplash and go back again. I don't know. But overall, I was okay with most of this playtest.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess, overall, it seems like good stuff, but that's me coming from how we started it, because I'm still hyped from the subclasses.
Started
and
high,
fighter
and then it
changes.
just gets depressing when you get toward the end.
Right.
See, I started you off high.
Yep.
And
now
then I
I'm ready
knew I
for a
was going to
nap.
gut punch you towards the end of the episode. So
I need a nap.
yeah.
Thank you, Richard, for running us all through this today. And also thank you to everyone who's listened this far. Just a heads up, we're going to be trying something new for this month of October, the spooky month. We're going to be doing some one-on-one live plays and trying that out. So really, because we just want to play more tabletop, and this is a fun excuse to do that. So we're going to be trying this out, and if it goes well, maybe every October it'll be spooky month for, True Strike, and we'll do these little sessions, whether it be one shots or 2 off sessions or whatever. We'll see when we really get into it. But next week, expect the start of that and running throughout October, unless anything massive comes up in the middle of October, I guess. But the plan as of right now is, live plays every week. So if you hate that, see you in November. But we hope to see you next week. But for now, I've been Tyler.
And I've been Richard.
And we've been True Strike. Hey, adventurers. Thanks again for joining us today. Please be sure to give us a follow on your favorite podcasting platforms and YouTube. If there's any questions you'd like to write into the show, you can hit us up on Threads or Instagram. New episodes release every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for listening to True Strike.